Okay, we're all good.
Perfect. Thanks, Carl. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for being here this morning. I wasn't expecting to chair the meeting this morning, but Councillor Chair DeRuse is having some technical difficulties, so hopefully he'll be with us shortly. First item would be his remarks. I'll let him speak to those when he finally does connect. But I do want to welcome our newest City of Ottawa representative, Councillor Kitts. So welcome aboard.
Thank you so much.
Did you want to take a few seconds just to say hi to everybody?
Sure. You know, I'm very, very excited to be here. I just received my assignments yesterday, so I was made aware of this meeting yesterday afternoon, and unfortunately, I have another meeting at 9:30, so I'll be joining you for a quick part at the beginning. But I certainly welcome you to reach out to me and set up, you know, a follow-up meeting to get more acquainted with the organization and how I can help.
Perfect.
Thank you very much.
Perfect.
All right, let's go to item 2, which is approval of SNC Board of Directors agenda, supplemental agenda. So I need, I believe, a mover and a seconder for that.
Mr. Chair, Mike Brown, I'll move it.
Hey, Mike and Francois. All those in favor? Hands going up. Anybody opposed to that? Hearing none. We'll go to item 3, declaration of conflict of interest. Anyone?
Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, I do have received a written conflict of interest from member Peggy Taylor. I believe Peggy Taylor is online, but is the her regular written conflict of interest regarding communications committee involvement in minutes. So we do have that on file at the authority. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Angela.
All right, hearing no others, we'll move on to item 4, SNC project update, PowerPoint presentation by staff.
So good morning, everyone. I have a few updates to share with you this morning. I'll start with our online fundraising auction, which kicked off last week. The link is in your agenda package at 32auctions.com/art4trees. The bidding on about 30 different pieces that were donated to us will be open until the end of the month, and all funds raised will support our 2021 tree planting programs. To date, we've raised about $3,500, but we'd love to raise more, so please feel free to share details within your network or check out the link online and drop us a bid or two if you don't mind.
Perfect.
Next slide.
Thanks, John.
Our next update is on our tree giveaway events that we hosted this year. You'll recall that we did host these in all of our partner municipalities this spring, but we didn't get the chance to host it within the City of Ottawa. So just last week, we were able to host 2 small giveaways, one in Finley Creek and one in MECP, and Chair DeRuse was on site to help facilitate getting shrubs to families who reserved their trees online with us. So it was a great day and a good week for some shrub giveaways. The next slide is on our community tree planting program. You'll recall we amended our community grant program this year to support some amended guidelines that allowed us to give some funds to community groups to plant more trees. So as of our last meeting, we did successfully allocate all of our funding for the year. And about half of those projects where we sent our funding to, staff were on site to help actually plant the trees, get locates, and get the trees in the ground for our community group. So really great to see it all come together. There's still some more planting activities this month and perhaps into next month, but really great uptake for sure on this program. We were really glad to help.
Perfect. Thanks, John. Just to point out, everybody, I don't necessarily see everybody on my screen. So if you do have a question for one of the slides, just speak up and we'll get that answer for you. Thanks. Go ahead, John.
I'll pass it to Pat.
Good morning, everyone. Just an update on the forest harvest operations. Last month, I reported that operations started in South Dundas on 2 properties along Hurlburt Road. The photo on the left is some of the harvested material awaiting a truck for shipping to the mill. As part of the operations, we of course harvest forest products, but we're conscious about the values of the forest that we're also trying to protect. The forest on the right shows a pocket of advanced white pine regeneration, and you can see a few stumps in the middle of that where the contractor has reached into that area and harvested a tree without damaging the advanced regeneration. In the background of that slide, you can also see an area that was selectively thinned, and you can see a lot of hardwood advanced regeneration that the contractor was able to avoid in harvesting the forest products. Next slide.
Mr. Chair, I just wondering, Pat, when that harvest on Holbert Road, there's been a lot of good-looking timber going down by my place. I just wonder how much longer will that be carried on for? How long? How much? What's the time frame?
The time frame, it should be completed by next week, by the end of next week.
Okay, they've done a very good job up through there, and a lot of good lumber going down the road.
Perfect. Thanks, Archie.
The next slide is again about the working forest. We've been doing a lot of promotion. We're on our fourth property actually being harvested this year, and we have some more tenders going out at the end of this month. Our next week we'll be hosting our annual contractors meeting. It'll be hosted online, and we'll be promoting sales and opportunities to work with local industries in the forest. We also had the opportunity to work with the SNC and SD&G communications department to produce a short video on thinning the forest. This was done after the harvest on an SD&G compartment. We were able to fly over the forest and take a look from above at the effect of the harvest operations, and it's quite easy to see how the trees are spaced and have room to grow.
Okay. Perfect. Thanks, Pat.
So the next few slides are on some updates in our conservation areas. Obviously, this time of year, we're working to remove our docks, our debris booms, and get some of our parks closed and ready for the winter. But the fall is also a good time to work on some upgrades as well. So recently, we did expand the parking lot at High Falls Conservation in Castleman. This was to facilitate boat and trailer parking, but also increase park use, especially in the summer months. That parking lot was definitely overrun, so it's good to see that new parking lot take place. We did receive some support from the municipality to make that happen, which was really greatly appreciated. The parking lot is on the side of the road and not on the landscape side. There will be a few more trees planted in the property this fall, and then we'll focus on tree planting along the road side of the property in spring 2021.
Vice Chair LaRue, I think we had a hand from Danielle Lafleur.
Oh, perfect. Go ahead, Danielle.
Yes, Mr. Chair. John, I'd like to thank you for the help with you guys. The work that was done, it's excellent. I did receive some compliments regarding that, the parking. The council meeting on Tuesday, we went with new signs that's going to be put in to make sure that the vehicles without any trailer won't be parking there, because I've seen this weekend there was trucks with trailer on the lawn, so I didn't enjoy that too much. So we'll be putting signs saying only trucks with trailer will be parking with the new addition of the parking. But it's excellent. I do thank you so much for what the guys did. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Perfect. Thanks, Danielle.
Our next slide is on some of our tree pruning operations that have been taking place last month. This happens in all of our landscaped areas in our parks. It's a pretty big undertaking, but I did want to give a shout out to Jessup's Falls, which had a considerable amount of dead ash trees and other hazard trees that had to be removed this year. So it did take a big effort on our crew's part, led by Caro, to get this work done. Looking at Jessup's Falls, it looks like a much different place than it was before. It's really nice to see all the trees pruned back And of course, we did work on some replanting as well. So there's some really nice new trees that were recently planted in the park last week. Our next two slides are on our monthly stats, expected visitation at our conservation areas. The first one is on August, the following one is on September. The trends are showing pretty much the same story we've been talking about over the last few months. Obviously, the purple line at the end is the visitation recorded in 2020, the first one in orange 2017, followed by 2018, 2019. So definitely a lot of use in our parks, even into the fall. You can see parks with picnic areas receiving less use, parks with some of our more walking trails and river access receiving more use. So definitely something we're looking at as we plan our work and operations into the winter, into next year, and something to keep an eye on as we move things forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Next slide.
Good morning, board members. This is just a slide on the second bond berm. You know, the second bond berm is one of the infrastructure the South Nation owns. So every year we inspect it. This year, Mike, Mileni, and Cassandra, were our student, inspected, and they didn't find any issues with the geotechnical or structural vegetation. So what we want to do next is we are going to inspect it early next spring before we have so much vegetation in it, so to make sure that the toe of the berm is okay.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Sandra.
And this, the next slide shows the Castleman Weir. I have a board in the report in the agenda. You know, we had an inspection in 2019. We did a dam safety assessment, and the engineer who prepared the assessment found some issues with the concrete. He said that the concrete was poor, and the recommendation was the South Nation to complete more testing. So we can discuss more in detail when we get to the report in the agenda. I just wanted to put it in your mind.
The next update is on some of our planned floodplain consultations this fall. You'll recall last month we talked about how our online consultations would proceed for floodplain mapping updates. And so we've gone ahead and scheduled those dates. The first one on November 10th at 7 p.m. That will be for Finley Creek and the North Castro River. This is floodplain and erosion hazard maps that have been updated by SNC. And on November 12th, we'll be hosting a public information session for Clarence Creek in the city of Clarence, Rockland. Both of these public meetings will be live streamed on our YouTube channel, same as this meeting, and everyone in the affected areas have received letters with draft maps as well. So they'll also be invited to participate and provided information for one-on-one meetings with staff.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Mr. Vice Chair, just out of curiosity, if anybody, I guess, if you will, wants to take part in those meetings, information meetings, and they're not maybe tech savvy, is there any other way for them to participate or ask questions, phone, mail in, etc.?
Absolutely. So we've done it a little bit differently this year. We've provided everyone with the draft map, which is not something we've done in the past. So not only do they have a letter with a link to all of this information, but they've got the maps at home and they've got an invitation to speak with us directly. So that can be done online or in person, whatever is most convenient for the person in the area. We'll also, Archie, if someone isn't able to attend the meeting, we're going to record it and post it on our website as well. And sometimes that just makes things easier.
Okay, I think that's a good idea to make sure we can reach out to everybody that might be affected.
Absolutely.
Good point, Archie. Thank you. Next slide.
Good morning, everyone. So we are providing support to the St. Lawrence Parks Commission on their project at the Chrysler Marina. They're planning to complete maintenance dredging to improve boat access at this important tourism and recreation facility. So they reached out to us for assistance in navigating the Fisheries and Oceans Canada approval process for the work that they want to do. And depending on whether the project follows specific criteria or not, the approval required from them could vary greatly. So we worked with them to review all the criteria and requirements and ended up determining that their project would fall under what's considered routine maintenance dredging. So it doesn't actually require specific review by Fisheries and Oceans. So even though the project doesn't need to be reviewed, they still have to follow certain conditions and measures to protect fish and fish habitat. So we're helping them to understand all of those measures and incorporate them into their projects so they can proceed efficiently and obviously with minimal negative impacts.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Michelle.
Next slide. We have been doing some insect sampling. So it's one of our watershed monitoring activities that we carry out annually. So we sample the insects living in the streams in different subwatersheds. So these insects provide valuable information on the quality of the water and the overall health of the stream. And so because they're unable to quickly move in the stream, they're more sensitive to disturbances, and they can indicate if the stream is experiencing any negative impacts. This information is important for our catchment studies and our watershed report cards, where we characterize the health of our watersheds. And these efforts help us better understand watershed trends, and we can focus our resource management actions where they're needed the most and where they're going to have the most impact. And this work also supports South Nation and our municipal partners with planning sustainable development and preserving important natural heritage features.
Perfect. Thank you, Michelle.
Thanks.
Let's see, George. Request for approval, Board of Directors Annual General Meeting Minutes of September 17, 2020. Recommendation that the members of the Board of Directors Annual General Meeting Minutes of September 17, 2020 as submitted. I need a mover and a seconder.
I'll move, Mr. Chair, Mike Brown.
Mike Brown, perfect. Seconded by Archie. Any questions on the minutes? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Yes.
Perfect. Anybody opposed? Hearing none, item is carried. Move on to the next item. Request for approval, Communications Committee electronic meeting minutes of September 28th, 2020. That the Board of Directors approve the actions and recommendations of Communications Committee electronic meeting minutes of September 28th, 2020 as submitted. Mover and seconder put on the table. Moved by Monsieur
Francois.
Francois, seconded. Perfect. Questions, members of the board?
I have a hand, and I will make the comment that this is the agenda item where Board Member Taylor has declared conflict. So I will, not sure who the hand was, but just to say there was a hand.
Perfect. Thanks. If there's no questions, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Yes.
Anybody opposed?
Sorry, I gotta focus.
Hearing none, we're good. And next item is the letter from the MECP regarding electronic meetings. So the Board of Directors received and filed the letter from the Minister of the Environment, Conservation and Parks regarding electronic meetings. It was nice of them to catch up. Need a mover and a seconder. Moved by, how about Dana? And seconded by Bill. Any questions on this? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? I see hands going up. Voices, yeah. Anybody opposed? Hearing none, we'll move on to the next item. For the 2021 levy recommendation, the Board of Directors approved the 2021 General and Forest Land Acquisition Levy at approximately $3,950,494, and further that the City of Ottawa be levied $50,000 for their share of the Eastern Ontario Water Resource Program projects, and further that the City of Ottawa be special levied $200,000 for the Ottawa Rural Clean Water Program upon approval of the renewed 5-year agreement. And further that the City of Ottawa be special levied $200,000 for the Ottawa Ash Tree Replacement Program. And further that the City of Ottawa be special levied $41,000 for the Ottawa Baseline Monitoring Program. Need a mover and a seconder to put it on table. How about Jerry and Catherine? Although questions on this one, I'm sure. Anybody want to take a stab at it first?
Okay.
Well,
I'm sorry. Can I just ask? Is Catherine still on the line? I want to make sure that Catherine is still with us in the meeting. She's still there. I can't see her. Awesome. And are you okay with that? Okay, that's fine. We've got you on. Very good. Thank you. Just making sure.
I'm just going down the list of active participants, so we should be.
Okay, I trust you, Mr. Vice Chair. You're going quick for us, so we're just making sure everyone has an opportunity to ask their questions. So this is all
for
good.
sure. So I heard Monsieur Saint-Amour had some questions. I believe I see Archie's hand popping up as well.
Okay.
And I have,
Yeah, all right. Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair. Now we're just talking all about the City of Ottawa special levies. Are we talking about the general levy for operations and land acquisition?
Yes, can we have the previous slide? So if we may,
Okay. Yeah, it's just that yesterday or the day before, I seen a 2% plus growth. I have the feeling that it's a bit generous for this year, considering there's not much growth. Most municipalities do not go that high. I know at the counties of Prescott and Russell, we're looking at 1%, and at the municipality, we're looking at not more than 2%. So I would like to see the history of the tax levies for the general and forced land acquisition levies for the last 4 years. It would give us a good idea as to where we're going.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Saint-Amour. Angela, did you have any comments?
Yes, I just have a bit of feedback, so I'm trying not to. I think I'm okay now. So first, we have each year we have a discussion starting, pretty early with the City of Ottawa as being the ratepayer that pays approximately 80% of the general levies for the conservation authorities. So we did have that discussion. The direction from the city for the 2021 fiscal was growth plus 2.5%. In discussions with the other two conservation authorities in the City of Ottawa, I expressed my concern that I didn't think our rural municipalities, even though they pay less than the portion of the City of Ottawa, would easily be able to support that. I've scaled it back to 2%, which has been sort of our status quo budget increase for a number of years, and there's a few reasons for that. In our particular watersheds, we've been as busy as ever, if not more busy, with the pressures coming from COVID, and we've certainly seen no decrease in development review applications, planning and regulations files, violations, and uptake for our programs and services across the board. So I've actually tabled it at less than what was recommended by the City of Ottawa and the conservation partners for the same concerns that many of you have. In thinking about it, I think, status quo at 2%, we have to always wear a few hats, and mine, is to say, well, we have to do what's in the best interest for the Conservation Authority, but also what's in the best interest of maintaining our existing partnerships. So in coming in lower, I have already deviated from the higher recommendation from the city, and had a hard time, sort of discussing this matter with the other conservation authorities to encourage them to try to take less from that recommendation. It is always harder to, convince people that we should ask for less. So this was my first attempt at a compromise for this particular budget item, and like I said, there's a few reasons for it. It's busy, it's hard, it's been a lot in COVID, and recognizing that we can have a discussion, but any discussion that we have about specifics on budget direction would probably need to be hosted in a closed session because of the majority of our budget being a lot of staff dollars there. So we can have those discussions. The attempt on this is to have a budget direction. And like I said, it follows the city's budget direction and has reflected quite a bit of work on my end already to come in lower than recommended to try and build some consensus there. So you'll recall as well last year, it was tabled to go at 3%, and I recommended 2% as well. I'm kind of a 2% budget person if possible. And I think that for the foreseeable future, whether you're in business or at a municipality, we can see that we are probably going to be dealing with a reduction in assessment over the next 2 to 4 years, as well as additional budget pressures in the next 2 to 4, such that it may be unlikely to receive any increases for a number of years following this. So I've brought it in as status quo. I anticipated a lot of discussion on it, and I hope that some of those things make some sense.
Oh, okay, thank you, Angela. Good explanation. I wasn't too sure if you did have that discussion with the City of Ottawa. If the City of Ottawa is comfortable with that, I'll go with that too.
Mr. Chair, it's Mike Brown. I just wanted to I thought I tried to get in there too. I think I came in just after Francois. If it's okay, would I be able to speak?
I'd recognize Archie first, so we'll let Archie go first, Mike, and then you'll be able to jump in right afterwards.
Thank you.
I will also add Chair DeRuse has joined. I did see him join as well. So,
George, are you in?
Yes, I'm gonna let you keep chatting for another 10-15 minutes because our internet's still unstable, and I apologize for our network problem here this morning.
All right, all good. Perfect. Thanks, George. All right, go ahead, Archie.
Thank you. I wanted to get clarification first, and then I'm going to have some comments about the levy. In the supplemental agenda, we're looking at approximately a $250,000 surplus. Is that $250,000 earmarked for any programs or projects that didn't get completed, that were budgeted in 2020 but just didn't get completed, or is that full $250,000 going to be rolled over into the 2021 budget?
the $250,000 of surplus recommends my direction to staff in 2020 to basically to scale back operations, knowing that we may have some other budget shortfalls. So it's a result of not hiring in 2020, despite being pretty busy in certain departments. And the intended use of the surplus for the board's consideration will be to help balance the 2021 budget.
So I have a real problem with this. We got 250,000 that we're going to be rolling from 2020 into 2021. We're looking at a 3.5% increase. I realize that the budget is the levy is based basically on what the City of Ottawa is comfortable with, and I appreciate that and I respect that. But we're in unprecedented times. We have been, we still are, and we will still be for the foreseeable future. We have small industries and businesses and retail service sector businesses out there that are looking for leadership from our cities, municipalities, and townships, and from South Nation on how to scale back and how to make do with less. We're asking these individuals who, and I will go out so far as to say that a lot of these businesses, especially the retail, the small mom and pops, the grocery, the small convenience stores, the restaurants, whatnot, they may not be around in a year's time, people. And for us to go in with a 250,000 plus another 3.5%, which amounts to an almost $150,000 increase, I'm not comfortable with that, given the circumstances we're experiencing right now. Personally, South Dundas is, in all due respect, is not the City of Ottawa, and I feel uncomfortable in going back to our council and saying, there's going to be a 3.5% increase plus a $250,000 rollover into 2021 from the 2020 budget. Personally, I don't think we should, the growth, the 1.5% growth. I'll be happy if we have some businesses that don't go under with the economic pressures they're under right now with the COVID pandemic going on. So to speak about growth, I think, cost of living is one thing, but just to speak about growth, I think we're all hanging on with, we've done in South Dundas. We cut back some programs. We didn't buy some of the infrastructure that we wanted to, that we had budgeted when it came along. So I really would encourage the board to reconsider a 3.5% increase, especially with that 250,000 being rolled over. Personally, I'm not really comfortable with anything over 2%, considering the economic times. That's about what I'm going to stop with right now. I may have some more to add later.
Thank you very much, Archie. I know that in our reports we had a 2021 SNC levy schedule that broke down everything per municipalities. I know that out of the 150,000, the majority, obviously almost 65%, is the city of Ottawa. I see, for Nation, it represents an extra $4,700. For South Dundas, an extra $2,500. I know, like, realistically, if we cut it back, for the 15 of us, it'll be pennies that'll make a difference, but it'll be a significant chunk from the city of Ottawa. And if the city of Ottawa is acceptable to throw in the budget, like Angela said, they're throwing in 80% of the budget. I understand that the times that we're in. I don't disagree with anything that you've said, Archie or Francois, but realistically, we're talking the impact on our individual municipalities are going to be pennies on the dollar compared to what the city of Ottawa is going to be bringing in. Mike was next. Go ahead, Mike.
Yep. Is Councillor Kitts still on the line, or has she left?
No. She's gone.
Okay. Well, up front, I'll make a few comments. So up front, you're absolutely right. I mean, by my math, the city of Ottawa contributes between 78 and 80% of the levy. I think Russell would be the next highest contributor, around approximately 5%, followed by the remaining member municipalities. I'm going to speak to this from two perspectives. One, as a member of the board and appointed by council and on the mayor's direction, and the comments I've heard from the mayor in the past. And then I'll also look at it as a lawyer who happens to work in the development area and at a law firm that happens to represent some pretty major developers. So on the score of the levy and the amount of the levy, obviously with COVID, I have not had any direct calls or talks with Mayor Watson recently, but certainly last year, I say last year, I guess I would say 2019. Gosh, it's funny how time goes. Last year, I did meet with the mayor in September of last year and said to him at that time, do you have any direction to us? And I appreciate that the mayor doesn't speak for all of council, but I think we can all safely say that Mayor Watson has pretty strong support on council. And his direction to me was that council wants to see these boards passing budgets in the 2 to 3% range, 2 to 3%. I know from even looking at media reports that this year's council is aiming for a budget for City of Ottawa in terms of a 3% increase, which is a little higher than Mayor Watson has done in previous years, but is still going to take an immense amount of control. This budget is calling for effectively a 2% increase. I am going to exclude the comments about certain special levies that are based on long-standing practices of the City of Ottawa. These levies are long-standing items. These are not recent initiatives. These have been things that have been done for quite some time. So overall, the 2% increase is well within the guidance that I have received from the mayor directly from his mouth in the past, and is frankly at the low end of his guidance. I now will sort of also note that I appreciate, and I hear Archie in terms of the concerns about the troubles that many businesses are having, and that's true. That is very true. And everyone is waiting for when that other shoe will drop. And of course, there's dread in the system about what will 2021 look like after going through the shock of 2020. But I do think there's a binary aspect to the economies in our region. And let's be brutally honest here. The economy of the city of Ottawa, in my opinion, is extremely strong and is still growing. And there is definitely growth in the prices of real estate. There is definitely growth in businesses. There's still growth in many areas. And I appreciate, as someone who was born and raised in the Brockville area, that this has always been a challenge with Eastern Ontario, right? Ottawa grows a lot faster than a lot of the more rural areas surrounding Ottawa, and it's just a fact. So my point is that while I get it where Archie's saying, you know, some of us are, you know, some of our businesses may be going out of business, that's true, but there are also new businesses growing. And I do think that there is a chance that the economy will bounce back stronger than people suspect. I think that there is a resilience there. And so on that score, now moving over to my other hat, which is I happen to be a lawyer and I happen to work with developers, and I happen to be at a firm that represents many developers who frankly will be expanding into South Nation. And I want to stress, of course, I stay off of those particular files. But the point is that I can guarantee you that there are going to be developers screaming for quick approvals by South Nation for subdivision projects and other developments in the watershed areas, in the areas of South Nation's jurisdiction. And for these developers, that timeliness and that ability to respond is extremely valuable. And it's extremely important, and it really boils down to families getting to move into their homes. And so I do not want to see a slash and burn approach to South Nation's budget, because that is not actually going to be very helpful for a number of our developer clients. The regulations that South Nation has to provide and enforce are there. And those regulations aren't going away anytime soon. If there are massive cutbacks, all that happens is the paperwork piles up and the response time takes longer. We're frankly already encountering that with other approval authorities that we have to deal with because of cutbacks. So I'm supportive of this budget. I think it is a steady as she goes budget. I do not think it is an ambitious budget. And I think it's within the range and the direction that I have personally received from the mayor. And Councillor DeRuse is here. I'm sure he can speak to this as well. But I believe this is a fair budget at a fair rate that Ottawa ratepayers would accept.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Michael, for the comments. I see that Bill, you have your hand up. You just have to unmute, Bill.
Okay, Chair or Vice Chair, do you have me online now?
Yes.
Okay, I concur and I agree with the comments that have been made about these are very difficult times and will continue into 21. I believe strongly that we cannot overlook the comments and the direction we're getting from the City of Ottawa that has about 80% of the budget. I believe that our amounts will not be that large. They'll be difficult at times, but they will not be that large. And I also firmly believe that if we do not keep up to the rate of inflation as we're going along, it creates a serious problem in the years to come. And we've seen that in past years, in past times. So I'm supportive of the recommendation.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Bill. Chair DeRuse.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. I just want to offer a few comments because I have to disconnect and reconnect to do reboot to our system. But I'd like to offer a few comments, and I know Michael and I heard most of the comment that's been coming from the floor, and I totally understand. I agree with Archie and Francois, and I understand the argument. But we in Ottawa, we have a three conservation authority to deal with. We have South Nation, we have Mississippi, and you have an RVCA. And I think Michael summed it very well that the 2% increase with the inflation, that's something that we've been really looking at a close eye on it. And in the budget this year, I know that COVID put a lots of budget pressure on most department and everywhere in the city and all the small municipality. But for us, we have to go into a budget that we have a CAs that have the same rate. And I did ask Angela, and Angela, you can jump in any minute you want, that we need to make sure we speak with the RVCA and Mississippi, with the general manager and with the board, to making sure we're all going in at the same rate. We cannot go into the city of Ottawa and say, well, South Nation doesn't want to increase anything, and we're going to go at a 0% or 1.5% or 3%, and other CAs going at a different level. We're not going to look, or it's not going to look fair for other CAs. So, and honestly, right now, this year, we might have the money in 2021 to be able moving with those increases, but we don't know what's going to happen in 2022 budget. We don't know the unforeseen and what is those pressure that's going to show in the next 2 or 3 years. This year, we have the relief. Ottawa knows, most of you know, that we have $192 million in deficit. And thanks God, now the government come, and as you know, municipalities are not allowed to go into a new budget with a deficit. So we have a relief from the both level of government. We're still in the deficit for $50 million. I know the federal government, the mayor has been in talk with the federal government and some provincial entity, and I know we're going to be able to get that gap, but next year we don't know. So I understand the point that Archie and Francois is making, but I agree with Pierre and I agree with my other colleague. Right now, if we have the opportunity to go in 2%, which is the minimum requirement from increasing of the percentage, and if you look at also what's going to impact into South Nation, the dollar is going to be more impacted than any other municipality. So those are common, and I asked Angela did you talk and did you have this conversation with our partner with the RVCA and the Mississippi? Please, if you can shed some and give us some more information, that will be appreciated.
Yes, we did have those conversations with Mississippi and Rideau Valley, and they were at my sort of urging, thinking that, these types of levy increases, I knew we would have this conversation, and that I'm very much trying to always mediate the interests of all of our municipalities. And I think if we are to proceed with an increase as proposed, know a couple of things. One, it was a compromise to begin with. And two, it's my belief also, not only as an employee, but as a business owner, that it's important to have jobs in the economy. And the direct correlation, whether it is that last year our budget transfer payments were cut by the province in half, and this year if we do or don't proceed with an increase in the levy, all it does over time is erode our capital as an organization. And I can't in good faith recommend that we do that. And like I said, if there is a seller in this as a business owner, it means something to me, unless I'm going to be getting all of my business taxes back, which I haven't seen any type of indication. The second most important thing is that there's people in the economy to support those businesses with good jobs. And so that's part of my rationale behind the budget, is a lot of our budget is staffing dollars, and it has a direct correlation and something that we would have to discuss in closed session as to what the budget impact will be if we're not able to proceed with an increase. And I fully, having said that, I fully anticipate we will need to have that difficult discussion next year, regardless of what we do this year. So I simply say it as that, and know that the lower rate was sort of my direction and my discussions, and just knowing that we would have to have this very sort of challenging conversation. And always my wish that we do good work for every municipality in the watershed, and that we, to the extent that we're able to follow the direction or have the support of our members, that really means a lot to me. So.
Supplement, Mr. Chair. I thank you very much, Angela, for your comment on this. And I do listen. I gotta tell you something. We've been hearing from our resident and from most municipalities. We're hearing it. I know we're in COVID. I know we have a crisis. We have we do have pandemic. But if you look at across the board, South Nation haven't stopped or slowed down the workload that we have on our staff. And I know it made us change the way we do business. Look, listen, we're bored right now. We're meeting on Zoom, which is there is a lots of mechanism and lots of labor goes behind the scene for us to be able to deliver. But the resident and our developer and our application, if you look at, I just reviewed the application yesterday that our staff submit to us. The workload's still there. We're still working. We're still delivering services. And in all municipalities, residents expect to pick up their garbage. Residents expect for us to provide them with emergency service and everything. So we cannot really change the way that we deliver our services this in 2021. We need to make sure that we do have the money and the financial to be able to take us to next year. And I think I agree with Angela. Next year, and probably we're going to have a different conversation. We're going to have tougher decision to make. But until that time, I think we should stick to the 2%, and I think we should present the budget as presented to us. That's my comment. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I see Archie's hand is up. Before Archie speaks, was there anybody who hadn't spoken yet who wanted to make a comment? No? Okay, go ahead, Archie.
Thank you. I keep hearing 2%. My math says it's 3.5%, people. It's 3.5% increase. I hear about, as far as approvals go for developments and whatnot, and we have one coming into South Dundas. Our fee schedule pretty well picks up 97 to 98% cost recovery on them. Without seeing the budget and see where the money's going to be allocated, which is, I might add, another sore point that, in my mind, that we're approving a dollar amount and then it's being, I guess, distributed throughout a budget so that next month, when we come to the budget, it's the money's already there. To me, we need to continue, and I agree, and I hear what my colleagues are saying as far as the essential services. But that's the main point here, the essential services that we keep continuing and offering to the residents and the municipalities and their townships and our cities, those essential services as far as permitting, approvals, whatnot for development. I think we need to look at other areas to keep that 3.5, get that 3.5 down to 4, and it's still, or down to 2. Sorry, get that 3.5 down to 2 in my mind. But I hear sooner or later, I'm afraid, and I've been wrong before. The bubble's going to burst on the funding sources that the feds and the province, are handing out, and when that happens. Excuse the expression, but the shit's going to hit the fan, and I want to make sure we're on the right side of that fan. So I've voiced my concerns and my opinions, and I will go along with what the board so directs.
Okay. Thank you very much, Archie. Any other comments from the members of the board? So at this point in time, we do have a recommendation. I did have a mover and a seconder, I believe, to put this on the table for the discussion. So at this point in time, I'll call for a vote if there's no further questions. All those in favor?
I'm sorry, Chair LaRue, the person that you had moving is no longer on the line, so I just call for a fresh.
Okay.
I'll move, Mr. Chair. Michael Brown.
Michael Brown moves, seconded. George is back, so George can second it. All right, call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, okay, I see anybody opposed? Perfect, the ayes have it. So that's it for that item. We'll move on to the next item. Update the federal 2021 pre-budget submission recommendations for investments for economic recovery. Angela.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Vice Chair, as it were. The report that I have before you today is one that I did want to table in the context of the budget, because I want you to know that it really takes a lot of thought to get ready for the next few years. And I think all of your CAOs and your members of council will be working hard to figure out paths for recovery following COVID, and knowing that there could be challenges in the future. I basically have put the federal pre-budget submission from Conservation Ontario in your agenda package, because I think that it provides some good direction on some of the key program areas that the Conservation Authority will be taking a look at both now and into the future, as we make sure that we're in line with our core mandate. We do have a PowerPoint presentation, and I'm just going to see if so what I wanted to highlight here is the amount of effort that we've put in phases 1 through basically 6 of the federal funding that came in for floodplain mapping. And there's a couple of reasons I want to do this. I'm sorry, I have a lot of feedback. I think it's one of the members. Just give us 1 second there. Okay, I think now we've gotten, are we okay now?
Yeah.
I think that's better. Okay, much better. Great. So no, we wanted to chat about this with the amount of development happening in both, close to the city of Ottawa, outside of Ottawa, but also down Highway 31. As staff, it's we have this saying in the office, and I'm the one who came up with this. It's sort of like, I said, I wish people would make their decisions about floodplain on the wettest day, and I wish they'd make their decisions about wells on the driest day. But no one wants to usually do that, and I think that it's so essential that we have a few discussions about the need for floodplain mapping in the watershed, because staff here do a great job of being called in at the last minute to help resolve challenges and issues that we have on difficult development sites. But there's a few things we really need to be able to do that work a little bit better, and it's things that I think that the municipalities and the counties can use as well. And it's part of really preparing Eastern Ontario, as well as we're prepared hopefully with internet and other types of technology that allow us to work better from home. Doing things like LiDAR allow us to be more prepared for floodplain mapping as they are needed. And like I said, there's a number of pressures facing municipalities and conservation authorities, and some that I think that really are worth discussing. So the reason I want to put this together is to show you the extent to which staff have gone out in the past and relied on these federal dollars to help balance these budgets or create the organization that we are today, and to also let us all know that as we move forward, it's important that whether it's investments for economic recovery and wherever we can get those dollars, we sit on a task force with the City of Ottawa, for example. They do have special dollars available for projects that are shovel ready and prepared for economic development. And as much as conservation authorities are environmental organizations, we're also important organizations in the municipal services field, and the working together with our municipalities to bring these things together. So with that, I just wanted staff to run you through quickly some of the floodplain mapping projects that we've done. And I also want to sort of with this report table the idea that we will be looking at, hey, what does our 7-year or 10-year plan look like for floodplain mapping? And consider, if we have not the dollars from the federal level, how, if any way, can we make sure that this is a priority for our organization and set aside the resources within the organization to deliver these types of things. So like I said, this is just one example of how the federal economic recovery plays into our budget. But I do see as time goes on, we really need to keep our eyes open for economic recovery opportunities for the authority and for the municipalities, as we are often the service providers very much for the municipalities in the areas that we can help and can serve. So with that, I don't know if it's Sandra that's going to present it. If not, I can present it as well. Is Sandra on? Thank you.
Yes, I am on. You want that presenter? I am fine.
Sure.
Yeah,
Sure. Yeah.
good. Well, as Angie mentioned, flooding is one of the leading causes of public emergencies in Ontario. And climate is changing, and we have more frequent and serious floods, and this is expected to increase. You might remember what happened in 2017 and 2019 with the St. Lawrence and the Ottawa River that caused that 6 municipalities declare a state of emergency. So these floods in 2017 and 19 remind us, municipalities and conservation authorities, that we have to work together. And cooperation and collaboration between us is important to manage development in floodplains and protect our residents. Next slide, please. The slide shows the map of the South Nation jurisdiction. You can see there is many water courses in the map, and the total approximate length of water courses is 8,758 kilometers. Of that amount of kilometers, only 1,049 kilometers of stream have been mapped. That means that we know the hazards in only 1,049 kilometers. And only from that 1,000 kilometers, 295 kilometers were the ones that were just updated in the last 6 years. So in summary, we have only 12% of the streams have been studied. So we know the hazards, the floodplain and erosion, only in 12% of the streams. And only 3% of those streams have new floodplain mapping. Next slide, please. So the remaining maps, the most of our maps are 25 to 35-year-old. That means that they are depending on the topography that was collected in that 25 and 35 years ago. And the models that they use to delineate these maps, they are obsolete and they are no longer available. So, change is the only constant in life. So that means the topography change. And sometimes when we make decisions for applications, for development applications, we rely on those maps. And sometimes those maps might not be the best. Next slide. In 2012, the Board of Directors recognized the need of updating our mapping, and we worked closely with our member municipalities and identifying priority areas, and new mappings were produced. The updates took place only in the municipalities that they have topography updated. They have LiDAR. That were the United Counties of Prescott and Russell and the City of Ottawa. So the new maps are digital, very easy to update, and they are available to residents, to the municipalities, to development. So it's very easy to deal when we have a development application with these new tools. Next slide, please. So what is LiDAR? LiDAR is the light detection and ranging, a remote sensing method. What it does is a plane flies and it pulls laser and it measures the distance to Earth. So they produce the new topography. In the bottom of the slide, you can see that's the Castle-Lemieux landslide is how the LiDAR look. That's one picture. So LiDAR is accurate and is cost-effective to delineate natural hazards. I want that you think about what LiDAR gives us. What is the product? The product from the LiDAR is a new topography and new contours. If we don't do LiDAR, then we have to send surveyors into the field to collect the data. So you imagine the price of going out and surveying kilometers and kilometers of land. Next slide, please. So the map shows the map shows the yellow portion of the map, the color map in yellow. That's the South Nation jurisdiction, and the yellow area is the area where we do not have floodplain mapping. LiDAR. I'm sorry, where we don't have LiDAR. So that's the area where we have all the old mapping, the 25 to 35 years old mapping. So what we are looking at, based on the approach that we took last in 2018 with the San Lawrence River, we are looking for partners to work together and get the LiDAR for our area. We talk with the rest of the CS. We have the Eastern Ontario CS, 5 of them, and in the map, all the color areas are the areas where the LiDAR is needed. There is an approach that we are going to work together. There is potentially funding under the National Disaster Mitigation Program, and we will be approaching all partners, municipalities, conservation authorities, and other users to buy the LiDAR together. One reminder is that bigger is the area, cheaper is the LiDAR. To give you an idea, the LiDAR that we bought for along the San Lawrence River in 2019 was around $100 the square kilometer. And right now, because if this project moves ahead, and the area is so big that the price that the contractor sent to us was around $58 per square kilometer. So we're talking half of the price. Next slide. So what is that LiDAR giving us? Well, LiDAR is going to streamline the local development by providing accurate topography information at the pre-consultation stage. So that means that when we have planning or approval, in the approval process, there will be not surprises. That will be the taxpayers' money. It will save taxpayer money because they will not need to do the survey. They can rely on the LiDAR. It will support the future municipal or conservation authorities' infrastructure projects. They will support the hazard modeling with identify and help areas to mitigate the impacts of flood or erosion. And it will enable us to modernize our floodplain studies that they are old and they are obsolete. And finally, LiDAR can be used to enhance emergency management measures like the flow forecasting and warning. Right now, when we do flow forecasting and warning, we are able to propose to give the city of Ottawa mapping of areas that they will flood, things that we cannot do for the remaining of our watershed where LiDAR doesn't exist. I'm going to pass it to Alison now. She's going to have two or three slides.
Hi, board members of the board. I have just 2 or 3 slides here, just sort of lending the support to how important this LiDAR project, just from what we see every day as we work here at the CA. As Ange mentioned, our new planning playbook is really envisioning the floods of 2017 and 2019 when we do our planning. Almost all our planning is done on dry days. We have that luxury, but when the wet days come, we do wonder if we've made the right decision. Next slide. So I think I would just reiterate the things that most of you already know. Our development lands are becoming more challenging. We're seeing homes kind of fitting in amongst floodplains, as you can see in that bottom picture, and obviously wanting to have some level of certainty when we make these decisions and tell people that, you know, your home is safe. These are critical decisions that really affect communities. Like, can we build there or not? Is it safe or not? And South Nation and the other CAs in the province are really the front line on this. We also know that our timelines are getting shorter and shorter, so the demands are coming quicker and quicker. When someone calls, they usually want an answer right away. And depending on the quality of information we have via the engineering team, it really affects our timeline on being able to respond and being able to respond with confidence. The other issue we see a lot when we're reviewing things is that not all floodplains are created equally. So there are some floodplains that are shallow and flat. We look at Sandy Row. We had an important commercial development coming in on Sandy Row in a big flat floodplain. We do not have LiDAR in that area. We were not able to provide a quick turnaround on that question. Of course, we were able to come up with how to get the information, but it would be much better if we had that information at our fingertips and we could have confidence to speak with the municipality. Next slide. Next slide. Is there... There we go. Thank you. This is the final slide. We are the best and most reliable source of information, but that requires us to come up with the plan that Sandra and Angela are referring to, a plan that allows us to stay up to date and respond to municipalities' needs. Municipalities often come to us kind of last second, realizing, oh my gosh, I think there might be potential for flooding here. We'll go to South Nation. You know, the report's going to council on Monday and they're calling us on Friday. And we want to be able to support that kind of decision making and turnaround. We want councils to be informed, but we need the LiDAR to be able to do that. It's a really key piece of information. Where we have it, we use it all the time. The other thing that's nice is we can give better service to our developers, which is important to us as well. When the developer asks for, oh, can I get that line? Can I get that shapefile? Can I get that model? It's amazing when we can say, yes, we have an up-to-date model. We have all this like great information, but there are still so many areas of development pressure where we don't have that and we can't provide that service. So from our perspective in the approvals department, you know, in regulations and septic, same thing. This kind of information is essential to the work we do, and insofar as it's also essential to our municipalities who rely on us to provide this to them. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think that's sort of it for us. It's just to show, you know, we're still looking into the next phase of the federal funding for items like LiDAR. While I know it sometimes is technical, we hope that you can understand that when you hear something like that we're asking for, it's really because the municipalities do need that support. And where I, as a general manager, have really seen differences here is as we get, you know, sometimes new councils or sometimes new staff, it's really tough for us sometimes. I'll give the example of Chrysler, for example, where sometimes the bottom of that bridge is wet. You know, in flood season, and we still, you know, we'll have a new person come on and say, well, can we allow, like, we should be allowing infill and development. This is our high density. And we're like, I don't know that you've been on the bridge when it's wet. I don't know that you've seen what it is, you know, to have extreme flooding in some of these areas. So we want to do this work always to support the municipalities. And I think it's extra important in a time where, you know, the turnover rate sometimes of the staff in the lower tier municipalities has become, for us, ultimately challenging. And sometimes that exists at the upper levels of the counties as well. So there's a reason conservation authorities were created. We were created before even county levels of government. That's a fun fact. Some people don't know that. And that's because the decisions in one municipality affect another municipality, especially as it relates to water and as that water moves through the system. So like I said, lots of development files. It's what we spend a lot of time on, and even, you know, I spend a considerable amount of time on. So know that as we get these budgets together, if you hear something out there that, you know, if you can support it, I would certainly appreciate it, because the reason we're doing it is not to you know, to make ourselves more important in this. It's to serve and make sure we have the right answers for people as they need them. So that's it for our presentation.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Angela, Sandra, and Allison. At this point in time, I believe Chair DeRose is back online, so I'll hand it over to him.
Thank you, Vice Chair, and thank you, staff, and Angela, and everyone for the presentation. Sorry for the technical difficulty this morning. I think we have a recommendation in front of us. The Board of Directors receive and file the Conservation Ontario Federal 2021 pre-budget submission recommendations for investment for economic recovery. Do we need a move?
Francois moves.
Francois.
And then I'm seconding.
Francois and Dana move. Any question to staff?
Mr. Chair, Mike Brown, more just comment that I'm very supportive of the initiative, and you know, as I noted during our discussions on the levy, for certainly builder clients that I deal with, their biggest focus, and I think Allison would agree with this, is time and responsiveness. And I think that at the end of the day, my experience is that if we don't have the resources, sufficient resources to process these applications in a timely manner, the regulations do not get gotten rid of. They have to stay for lots of good legal reasons I won't go into. What happens is that wait times go on and on and on, and you end up with situations where you, as mayors and councillors, get phone calls from developers who are screaming for approvals to be green lit so they can proceed. So all of this ties in together. We want to have good developments that are respectful of water flows and water patterns and all that good stuff. There are reasons why those regulations exist, and investing in South Nation, in my mind, is an investment in development. And I always say to people, conservation is not just about conserving resources, it's also about the effective management of resources. And I think South Nation gets that, and I'm supportive of this initiative, and I'm supportive of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Angela, I saw your hand.
Yeah, I just want to add quickly as well. One of the recommendations when Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority had a number of challenges related to governance and other things, one of the recommendations of the Auditor General of the time was that they have a 10-year plan for floodplain mapping and floodplain mapping updates. So I'm taking sort of that idea from the Auditor General's report, as I think it's something that in the future you're going to see, as people say, conservation authorities need to really focus on stuff. It's going to be things like that to say, hey, what's your status of these projects, and how are you completing them over time?
That's so right. I agree with you on that one, Angela. Again, anyone have a comment or question for staff? I see none. All in favor? Any dissent? I see none. Carried. Thank you. We move to item 6D, request for approval for funding application, and I think Rhonda have the floor.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning. You'll find the report on page 33 of your agenda package. I would just like to note, Linda just flagged a typo for me in the third recommendation line. So it says requesting up to 100,000. There's one extra zero. It should say 100,000, not 1 million. So just a correction there when we get to the resolution. Apologies for that. So since our September meeting, there's been a few grants that have been launched, both by the federal and provincial governments, as well as Enbridge Gas. So we are looking to submit applications for several projects for 2021. For Enbridge Gas, the funding would actually be for this fiscal year for 2020. We did receive funding in 2019 that helped support the generator that was installed at the Chesterfield Dam. This year, we are requesting the same $5,000 to offset some of our costs related to work that we're doing at J. Henry Tweed. You may recall that we're doing a number of restoration initiatives there through our Ontario Power Generation Biodiversity Program. The $5,000 from Enbridge will help offset some of South Nation's contributions towards that project. The second grant is the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks Great Lakes Local Action Fund. This is a new program that launched with applications due on November the 6th. $50,000 per project is available. This grant will fund up to 100% costs of the project, but of course, projects that have matching dollars have favorable scoring. And again, these are projects related to protection and improvement of the water quality of the Great Lakes. And then the final federal grant that was released by Environment and Climate Change Canada is the Climate Action and Awareness Fund. Again, requesting 100,000 per project is what we're aiming for. They again will cover up to 100% funding, but again, matching dollars are considered a benefit. This application is due next week on the 21st, and under both the Climate Action Fund and the Great Lakes Fund, we are intending to submit multiple applications. The program does allow for that, and I'd be happy to answer any questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Rhonda. We have a recommendation in front of us. The Board of Directors approved the submission of the following funding applications. Number 1, Enbridge Gas requesting $5,000 donation for restoration projects at J. Henry Tweed Conservation Area, including bridge replacement and shoreline restoration. Number 2, Great Lakes Local Action Fund requesting up to $50,000 per project in funding to complete projects that have and environmental impact on the Great Lakes and its tributary. Number 3, Climate Action and Awareness Fund, requesting, like Rhonda said, $100,000, not $1 million per project, and funding to complete projects that develop knowledge, tools, and or skills that engage communities in climate action. Can I have a mover and seconder so we can have good questions? I see Bill and Peggy, Bill Smurl and Peggy Taylor, both of them. And thank you. And now we move to questions. Any questions for that item? I see none. I want to thank you, Rhonda, for the presentation, and I'm glad to see that we're still moving forward and putting application for funding for our project. So this is very, very good and great job on the staff, and I'm sure that the board are very happy with that. On that motion, can all in favor? Any dissent? I see none. Motion carried. Thank you. We move to 6E, Source Water Protection Enforcement Transfer Agreement, and that's on page 35, 37, and I think Allison will be presenting to us on that one.
Thank you,
Allison,
Mr.
you
Chair.
have the floor.
I just wanted to bring this to the board. We have a number of source water protection agreements with local municipalities. And so this is specifically for the work we do as the risk management office. This includes work like reviewing development applications to see if they would pose a threat to drinking water sources. We issue Section 59 clearance notices. We often liaise with municipalities and provide advice as to what types of activities would be better or worse in a certain area if there's a significant drinking water threat. And occasionally we do engage in risk management planning with local residents. This has been going on, as you might recall, for a few years now. We signed our initial agreements back in 2014. We serve 13 municipalities in this regard. The agreements have been operating quietly and deemed renewal for a few years, and so we're proposing to just send out a friendly letter to our municipal partners that we work with to remind them of the work that we've done, to celebrate some of the success we've had, including 100 risk management plans completed, 250 septic inspections completed, and just let them know that the program is now in a fee-for-service model, and that fee-for-service model functions based on our board of directors approved fee schedule. So the proposal is just to send out a letter, a reminder, and make sure that everyone's still doing well with that agreement. We've heard no complaints or issues. We just figured it was a best practice given that it's currently operating quite quietly in the background.
Thank you, Allison, and this is a very proactive approach. We really appreciate it. And we have a recommendation. The Board of Directors receive and file the Source Water Protection Enforcement Transfer Agreement update. Can I have a mover and seconder, please?
Daniel Lafleur.
And Dana. So I see both. So Danielle and Dana, thank you very much. Any question to Allison from the floor? Seeing none, all in favor? Any dissent? Seeing none, motion is carried. And now we move to next one on the agenda. It's thank you, Allison. And we move to the next one is 6F, and Digital Data Licensing Agreement Activity. This is Sandra again, and it's you can find it on page 38 to 40. Sandra, you got the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is just the receive and file. It's an update on all the data requests that we receive during the year. So predominantly the data requests, as I mentioned in the presentation, is consulting companies and developers, and they do the data request to fulfill the requirements of the Planning Act or the permitting applications. So the data is shared in a digital form once the the agreements had been signed, and the agreement that we have, it was reviewed by our legal team. So the agreement has requirements for the data usage and the disclaimer. So I bring your attention to the list, and that is attached to the report, and includes, you can see it's all kind of developers asking for floodplain mapping and erosion mapping.
Thank you very much, Sandra, and the board appreciate that. I will have a recommendation. The board directors receive and file the digital data license agreements activity update. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Pierre and Archie. Any question to Sandra, please? Archie, please go ahead.
So, yes, Mr. Chair. Sandra, is there any, I guess, sensitive material or confidential material that may be accessed by the developers, or what, if so, is there some kind of safeguard in there to, I guess, keep that information confidential or sensitive material in that nature?
No, the data requests, they are related to natural hazards, most of them that they go through our department is natural hazards, or sometimes it could be the data request regarding fish and fish habitat. They are not, otherwise we would not share it. So it's all public data that it goes through our hands. We have this process in place because it's very important that the developers receive the latest information when they are going to prepare plans and to move ahead with the development. So, no.
Thank you. Good.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Archie, and thank you, Sandra, for the answers. Any other question to Sandra? Okay, so the question is all in favor? Any dissent? Seeing none, motion carried. Next item is 6H and an update, 6G, sorry, update on site sewage permits issued. We have Allison, and that you can find it on page 41 to 42. Allison, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So there are 3 reports in this series, one for each section of the approvals department. The first one is our septic program, and we've also included this month a map, which should help make these a little more interesting and help people to see the sort of spread of our applications. So the blue dots on the map right now are for the septic program. So those are the locations of the applications that were received. And you'll note some of them are outside of the watershed because we do have agreements with municipalities outside of our jurisdiction. So you see quite a few dots in the East Hawkesbury area. We were up in Clarence Rockland a bit, and we were also quite a few down in South Stormont. So if there are any questions on that report, that's it for me on that one.
Thank you very much, Allison. We do have a recommendation. The board of directors received and filed the on-site sewage permits update. Can I have a mover and seconder? I see Archie and I see Jerry. Any question to Allison? I see none. I just have a nice comment. Thank you very much for the map. This is really good. I really like it, and I'm sure most board members will give them that vision right on the screen. So thank you for that. On motion carried. All in favor? Any dissent? Yes, it's carried. Thank you very much, Alice. Next is 6H, also Allison, update planning activities, and this is on page 43 to 45. Go ahead, Al.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't know if you can put the map back up, Diane, but if not, that's okay. Oh, perfect. So the planning applications are shown on the map in red. I did have a couple interesting comments to provide for this month. Looking at our applications, we're not at the end of the year yet, but some stats. I saw that we had received 4 subdivision applications last year. This year we already have 17. We have double the number of site plan applications that we saw from last year. And again, we're not at year end yet. At a higher level, because I think it is interesting, Angela mentioned why CAs were created. We do get this bird's eye view. We get to kind of see what things look like at a really broad scale. And I would say we're seeing a lot of increased density in our villages. I'm seeing a lot of townhouses and apartment buildings that are coming onto the market. A lot of people subdividing lots into little semis and whatnot, in Castleman, for example. We have very large residential developments proceeding in Rockland, which are exciting. And I think there's potential in Rockland for some future parkland space, and we are speaking with regional group about the space around Clarence Creek, because I think that's going to be a very nice development up there. So that's one of our large files you'll see on there called Riverlands of Rockland. We're seeing lots selling very fast in Embrun. Speaking with developers there, they had people lined up and camping in tents to wait for the lots to come for sale. And what I heard from the engineer from McIntosh Perry was that 30 lots sold in 25 minutes. And they felt people had been in line for about 5 days camping, waiting to get access to those lots. Seeing a lot of people from Toronto, a lot of people either purchasing for their family to move to the area or purchasing land that they're going to be using for real estate investments. But a lot of the folks that were there were coming from Toronto. And lots of large commercial buildings, the Vars Industrial Park also moving pretty well, lots of site plans in there, lots of commercial business coming online there. So obviously that's really great to see. And if you look at the technical reviews that are accompanying this report, you'll see we did almost 19 reports last month. So keeping our engineering team very, very busy and obviously very supportive to us, being able to provide municipalities this advice. Lots of files going out the door in the past few months.
Thank you, Alison. And then really, I do appreciate the update specifically on those planning application files, and keep the board informed of the growth and the development happening in our community. Like, I totally agree with you. I see Rockland, I see Vars, I see lots in the city of Ottawa. We can't keep them. We have one subdivision open up in Greeley, and they were selling the lot. They had 42 lots. They were sold within a month and a half. And we've seen lots of people coming from Toronto. Lots of people want to move to the rural and, of course, to small municipalities. So thank you very much for the great work and for giving us the board an update. I do have a recommendation. The SNC Board of Directors receive and file the planning activity updates. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? I see Danielle Lafleur and I see Michael. And any question to Alison? I see none. On the motion, all in favor? Any dissent? Seeing none, motion carried. Thank you very much, Alison. We move to next 6I, and it's request for approval permit issued by Jeff. You can find him on page 46 to 48. Is Jeff around, or Alison will be taking the lead?
Unfortunately, you're still being denied access to your regulations officer. It's going to be me this month. He would love to get in front of you guys and talk about all the fun files he's had. But just for the interest of moving things along, I'm going to present for him today. And I think I would just draw attention to the number of complaints and issues. You'll see that that list is it's comprehensive for the year, but it does continue to grow. Anyone working in enforcement right now knows it's a challenging time to do enforcement. And I would also remind the board that we don't receive compensation unless that complaint proceeds into a retroactive permit. So some of this work is takes a lot of Jeff's time, but doesn't necessarily reflect a cost recovery. However, there are still quite a few permits rolling in and a lot of municipal drain work that's been going on. So revenues look good in that department as well. And again, this is a request for approval for the permits that have been issued by the regulations officer for this past month.
Thank you very much, Alison. And we do have a recommendation that the SNC Board of Directors approve permits 127 to 141 issued under the Ontario Regulation 17/06, development interference with wetlands and alterations to shorelines and watercourses. Do we have a mover and a seconder?
Francois,
and a seconder, I see Dana. Any question to Jeff through Allison? Bill, go ahead. You have the floor. Bill and Archie. Go ahead, Bill.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, I was just slow getting my hand up.
Okay, Bill, Archie, you have a question. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Allison, let me get this straight. You mentioned that these complaints that Jeff gets involved in are not cost recovery unless it's a retroactive permit. So if I want to complain about something that my neighbor might be doing, it's going to take Jeff's time and cost us money. Is there no way we can get a cost associated with that? If I want to complain about something and it's frivolous, then I should have to pay the cost. If I'm complaining about something and it's legit, the party in question to make restitution, fix things up. Is there any way we don't need our staff running around doing work without being compensated just because somebody's having a bad day and complaining about something? Now, I'm not saying that's all the case. That's not the case always, but
I do have two quick
I don't
comments.
know.
If you want, Archie, I can. I think your comments are being noted by Angela and Eric as well, and Ange may speak to it. There's two things. We're very lucky to have such an experienced regulations officer that I would say his just to try to be professional, but his BS detector is quite good. I know that Jeff can usually wade through things he needs to go visit and things he doesn't. I don't think there's too many we attend where there's not a legitimate issue being raised that could result in retroactive. And I guess the second thing is it's obviously difficult to charge someone when there's no products that you're providing to them. But there is a service. So I think the comments are noted. And Ange, if you wanted, I know you were unmuted there. Did you want to add anything to that?
I think it may just be akin to things like property standards, et cetera, in your own municipalities and how you go about those things. There's certainly there's a duty to follow up on complaints, and sometimes that just falls to the bottom line if not a permit or such. So it's one of those things.
Mr. Chair, through you, Mike Brown. I think that's all fair. I think as well, though, I think that letter in the correspondence section regarding request for additional powers makes sense because of these scenarios. I mean, it's difficult. And the best, I mean, even right now, the powers of Jeff are quite circumscribed, really, with respect to orders and provincial offenses kind of stuff. And so it's challenging to get that cost recovery when we don't have those powers. And I read that letter very much as being about that. And in my view, I think that Jeff should be equal, at least in terms of powers as a bylaw enforcement officer. And if cost recovery is somehow able to be factored into that, that would be ideal for frivolous complaints or complaints where it's very obvious one neighbor is perhaps trying to use the conservation authority to settle a score with another neighbor, that kind of stuff. And I agree, Jeff can detect that baloney when he sees it. But on the flip side, these are challenges. And, I'm from a township that got rid of its fence line viewing committee. And I regret that because you have lots of property disputes involving fence lines. And that committee was really effective at making a ruling that people, whether they liked it or not, would accept. And these are things that we used to have available to us that we have less and less now as time goes by.
Thank you, Michael, for your comment. Archie, I know that supplement, you have a question?
But, it goes without saying that there are some things that, like Angela said, that has to go to the bottom line, but it's just the ones that, frustrates everybody, I think, when it's just a frivolous, but we leave it up to Jeff's discretion to be able to sort through the go out to these sites and wearing their rubber boots to get through the bullshit or BS. Sorry.
I would say it's also part of the intangibles that the approvals department offers, and it's also, you have to think of MECP's team as well, how often they're involved in property standards complaints. And I find our staff, I mean, I'm biased, but I think they're excellent, and they often end up coordinating bringing other agencies together. And this is an intangible benefit that's offered to all the municipalities. So they're, when you see cost recovery numbers, just know that there's work we do that is really just bringing everyone together. And trying to help resolve issues in a humane and respectful way. So that's another comment I would add, is both those teams offer that intangible benefit.
I totally agree. And Archie, thank you very much for your questions. I'll move on to Monsieur Saint-Amour. Francois, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I think Jeff does have the power. Whenever he sees a situation where they should have had a permit, that he can double the price for the permit. So there's a little incentive to get them talking to South Nation to get the permit set first time around.
That's accurate.
Okay.
Thank you, Francois. Totally agree with you. And you know what? This is a very difficult job. And also sometimes the South Nation, this is one thing South Nation is well known for, that we are here to serve our municipalities and working with the applicant and with the complainant. And we're always in a tough spot. So Jeff always have to assess. And he always, believe it or not, like our politicians, sometimes we don't like to be in some places, and sometimes we don't like to be dealing with some files, but unfortunately he's on the ground dealing with all these issues. So it is very tough spot to be, and he's been great representing our South Nation and the board on the ground. So those are my my comment. Any other question? Okay, so we have a motion on the floor, and then can all in favor? Any dissent? Seeing none, motion carried. Thank you very much. We move to next our 6G, and then we have a board hearing training. I think this item goes to Angela, and we have a presentation from all the board.
Yes, Mr. Chair. For this one here, I'm going to, I've been advised by Alt that we will probably do this in closed session. A meeting, just our bylaws read at 51 sub 1, a meeting or part of meeting of the Board of Directors, Executive Committee, or Standing Committee may be closed to the public if the subject matter being considered is education or training for the Board of Directors, and that is education and training for the purposes of acting as a hearing board. So I would simply ask for a mover and seconder at this time to put this item as a closed agenda item.
Thank you, Angela. I see Archie and I see Jerry. All in favor? Any dissent? Seeing none, let's move on.
Okay, so we'll deal with that one later in closed, and
yes.
For now we'll go to the financials is fine, and then we can deal with that after item. We'll make this as item 8B, I guess. We'll make it that where the closed session is.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I'll move it there on my side. So noted. Then after this, I guess we're going to move to number 7, financial report, and item A, request for approval, money received and disbursement registered for September 2020, and I think it's Carl, and you can find this on your agenda, 49 to 52. Carl, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, good morning. This is just the regular housekeeping report where we bring to you the monies received and disbursement register for the month of September. And I'm happy to answer questions.
Thank you, Carl. And we have a recommendation. The Board of Directors receive and file the money received report for September 2020, and further that the board approve the disbursement registered of $412,468.04 for September 2020. Can I have a mover and seconder, please? I see Archie and Bill. Any question to Carl on this item? Seeing none, all in favor? Any dissent? Seeing none, motion carried. Thank you very much, Carl.
Thank you.
Moving to the next 8B, think request for approval, Castleman Dam concrete assessment, page 53 to 54, and I think we have Sandra is on the file. Sandra, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I had a slide providing an update on this report. So you might remember that in 2019 we did the dam safety assessment. We had funding from the National Disaster Mitigation Program to complete that assessment. When the engineer company did the assessment, they noticed some cracks and things in the concrete. So he went ahead and did some testing in the concrete. So the Castleman Dam has two different sections. The bottom section, it was built in 1958, and the top section, there is a top section that is between 15 to 30 centimeters of concrete, and it was built in 1995. So when they did the testing, the bottom section, that is the old section, when they test the concrete, they took the concrete and the concrete crumbled. So we don't know how long, what is the extent of that issue with the concrete. So in the recommendations in his report, he recommends South Nation to complete the testing in the full concrete, in the old concrete area, and even do an underground visual and testing, no, sorry, underwater inspection, visual and testing at the dam. So we prepare specifications and request quotes from 3 companies. The first one, Company 8, didn't provide any quotes. The second company, the quote was $24,440, but the quote did not include the underwater inspection that it was recommended. And the quote was kind of funny because it did not include any cost on accessing to the areas that he had to test. So if we had to give ropes or lift or scaffolding, was not included in the quote. The third quote, it was $30,190 and included everything, all the specifications that we asked for, and even included divers and underwater coring. And the quote says this is the maximum, is $30,190. If the coring is not necessary, the cost will be less. It will be reduced from this main cost. So at this point, we are recommending to hire the company C to complete the inspection of the dam, the assessment.
Thank you very much, Sandra. And I do have a recommendation before to go to question from the board. The board directors approve retaining company C to complete the Castleman Dam concrete assessment at a cost of approximately $30,190 plus HST. Can I have a mover and seconder, please? I see Dan and I see Francois. Thank you very much. And we have any question, and I think I have Peggy put her hands up for question. Peggy?
No, sorry. It's okay.
Any question to Sandra? Seeing none. On the motion, all in favor? Any dissent? Seeing none, motion carried. Thank you very much, Sandra.
Thank you.
And that, I think we've finished. We're going to move to supplement agenda right now, Angela?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, and we have a supplement agenda. It's on your supplement agenda, item number 1A, update estimated statement of operations for September 30, 2020. And I think Linda will take that item. Linda, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Board. Pages 3 and 4, the statement of operations up to the end of September, forecasted through to the end of the year. The senior management team took a hard look at all the line-by-line numbers over the last few weeks, comparing the September 30th actuals and estimating the final 3 months of the year. And Angela spoke to this briefly at the levy report section. The surplus at this point in time is $249,000. And again, we'll just continue monitoring those lines as we move towards the budget that will come in November.
Thank you very much, Linda. We have a recommendation to the Board of Directors: receive and file the estimated statement of operations for the year ending December 31st, 2020 as of September 30th, 2020 update. Can I have a mover and seconder, please? I see Jerry and Francois.
Yeah.
And any question to Linda? Seeing none.
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry, Archie, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Linda, I guess I was looking through this, and under the revenue section of it, the special levy, we're sitting at current up to the date, it's 784,000. The budget was for 507, and you're forecasting for the end of the year 746. I'm just curious as to why the difference as far as revenue comes in from what we have right now, what you're forecasting at the year end. Like, I mean, the revenue that we have in should be to date should be the same, would it not? And what you're for the forecast for December 31st?
Well, right off the top, I'm pretty sure that relates to some of the deferred revenue to the partner programs. So the Clean Water, Ottawa Clean Water Program, the Ash Tree Program, and the baseline monitoring programs. So I would have to check that actual number, Archie, just to make sure what the 784 is all about. But the forecast was 746, and I believe that's based on what's actually going to happen in 2020.
Okay. And one more question, if you will, Mr. Chair. The forest land acquisition, we had budgeted 307,000. You're forecasting for the end of the year 515. Where's that extra money coming from? Could you enlighten me on that one?
Again, at the end of 2019, I think there was one large transaction still in the works. So we had some deferred revenue from the special levy for the land acquisition that was deferred to 2020 and added to the amounts available through the special levy in 2020. So that's why it's an increased amount.
And specifically, it's the Velma property, which was a multi-year acquisition. So the Velma property closes. I have a bunch of papers to sign with Warren. So Velma is closing in a couple of weeks. So it's the George Velma, which was, as you remember, it was year over year. Yep. So that's where it comes from.
Exactly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Arshid. And so, Linda, you'll get back to him on his...
Yes, on the actual for the special levy, absolutely.
Thank you, and thank you very much. I do have a quick comment and probably questions. I know that senior management looked at the numbers, and we really did we factor everything from between now and December in making sure we don't have any major setback or expenses. So I'm assuming that you looked at all the programs, all the programs we have, and you went thoroughly through everything, so we don't have any surprises between now and the end of the year.
Yeah, no,
we
did a detailed line by line, particularly this year for next year's budget. We had to, so we're really confident in this.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate it. We do have a motion in front of us. We have mover and seconder. All in favor? Any dissent? Seeing none, motion carried. Thank you very much, Linda.
Thank you.
And thank you, board. I think now we're going to move to 8B, and that's probably we need a motion. We need to go in camera for that one. Angela, am I correct?
Yeah, so I got a motion to move it to closed session. So now I'll simply seek a motion to go into closed session for the purposes of board training. So a mover, please.
Pierre and Archie, All in favor?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, and so you'll recall that there's a second call-in number that you have. And Carl, do you want to provide anyone with any specific instructions on that?
Yes, thank you. Just make sure that you leave this current call. Staff members, if you're staying on this call, please mute and turn off your cameras. The stream will continue to YouTube on the public meeting link.
So thank you very much, Carl. So it's 10:53. I will give 5 minutes to everyone to log out of here and log into the next team login that we have. So thank you very much. We'll see you guys in a few minutes.
Thank you.
Hi, Dana. You'll need to join on the closed session link.
I thought I am in the closed session. Okay.
Yeah. What do you mean?
Êtes-vous dans le budget, vous autres, Frank, à l'heure actuelle? T'es sur mute.
Oui, on a commencé avec le staff, mais on n'a pas commencé avec les réunions publiques encore.
Non, nous autres, les réunions, avec le staff.
Okay, so a reminder for everyone, we're in open session and recording right now, okay? Just so
Okay.
everyone is aware. Thank you.
Thank you, Andre.
And we have most joining back on. We're just waiting for the board members to return back from closed session. We have quite a few joining. Almost everybody back on. George, not yet.
Not yet.
Everybody okay there? And we're missing are we missing George? Do we have quorum online yet?
I think most of us are back.
Okay. Just was waiting for the chair to return, but I know he seems to be having some internet issues.
I just called him and I think he's joined.
Oh, there he is.
Okay, great.
No. Okay, I think I'm back, and I think I have a stable connection right now. So do we need a motion to?
Yes, so we are back into open session. So I do need a motion to move back into open session from our closed session, which was training for the board for the purposes of acting as a hearing board. So I need a mover and a seconder, please.
I see Bill and Francois put their hands, so we can accept that. And all in favor? Motion carried. Thank you very much. So we'll go back to our regular agenda, and it is we're going to number 9, I'm assuming.
That's correct, Mr. Chair. That's correct.
Correspondence letter from Conservation Ontario to Honorable Jeff Urick, Minister of Environment, Conservation and Parks, and Honorable John Yakabaski, Minister of Natural Resources and Forestry. Angela.
So simply, the letter is on page 55 and 56 of the board package. Minister Urick did give us greetings at Conservation Ontario's September meeting on the September the 28th, and indicated that he's looking forward to continuing working with the conservation authorities and as well as possibly some regulatory changes before the House sits for the fall. So we look forward to hearing back from Minister Yurek, and we were glad he was able to join us.
Yeah, and I was preparing in my opening remarks this morning, which is I was not able to, but I do want to let the board know that I'm not sure if the vice chair shared that we didn't go. We actually did the Zoom meeting with Conservation Ontario, with myself and past chair Bill and Angela, of course, and vice chair Pierre Leroux, and it was very good. It went very well. We didn't have to travel, and Minister Yurek was there for the beginning of the presentation, and they submit some question for him, and it was very positive answers back from him. So hopefully we can keep this dialogue going with the CAs in Ontario. So that was great, and we finished almost at 12:15, and we didn't have to fly. We saved the South Nation Conservation Authority a few $1,000s also. That was great. Good. That was good. That point. So, any questions to Angela or to any board member like to comment or say anything concerning the correspondence of anything? Seeing none, thank you very much. And next is number 10, and those are some just dates for the upcoming meetings. Third Thursdays at 9 a.m. unless indicated otherwise. Our next meeting will be November 19, 2020, which is we'll have the SNC 2021 draft budget presentation, and I think probably this will take a little bit longer than usual, just the board member to make sure for time scheduling, so give yourself some extra time. And then the next one will be December 17, 2020, and of course January 21st, 2021, and February 18, 2021. And I know that we have a Roma virtual conference in January 25th and OGRA virtual conference in February 22, 25. Hopefully till then things will change and we'll have other than virtual, but right now I think they are all virtual as of I understand. Right, Angela?
Yes, to date, that's right.
Thank you. Number 11, it's a future motion to the board or discussion of SNC issues, and we can, any board member have anything to add? It's the time right now, or to say anything. So we start, I see a hand. Mr. Bill Smurl, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Am I on now? Yes, thank you. I just wanted to review and mention that we have a policy that after every 5-year stint, we give recognition to members and to council members and to staff members, etc. And I want to note that Doug Thompson served in various capacities for 19 3/4 years, and I would like to move, looking for a seconder, that we grandfather him and consider giving him, or not just consider, but give him a 20-year recognition.
Thank you, Bill, for bringing this on the table to the board, and I'm sure that before I say any or comment on anything, I'm going to ask if any of the board members have any question or any comment.
Francois here, I'd be okay with that.
Thank you, Francois. Archie, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I'm having some technical difficulties, I guess. The last half of Bill's presentation, if you will, cut out on me, and I didn't get it. What? Could you repeat that, Bill? I'm sorry, my sound system on my computer went on me.
Bill, you want me to? So Archie.
Yes, please, George. Yes, please, Chair George.
Archie, it's Mr. Doug Thompson was 3 months shy of his 20 years, and Bill's proposing that we will move forward as a board member and present him with his 20-year pin. I think Archie said it's okay, and I do second that bill. I totally understand. I appreciate all the time that Mr. Thompson served on that board, and as when he was council, and also when he was a member of that board appointed by the city of Ottawa. So I don't have any objection, and I'm sure none of the board member will have this objection. So I don't know if we need a motion today, and we need or for next meeting. So I don't know the procedure, how you can do it.
I think we're fine. We have what we need as staff to proceed, so we should be fine.
Thank you very much, Angela, and thank you very much, Bill. I appreciate it. Any other board member like to discuss anything or bring anything to the table? If there is not,
Mr. Chair, perhaps I could just say a compliment to you and Vice Chair Pierre for running an excellent meeting. Well done, and I really enjoyed it. It's a very different listening in more. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Bill. And my closing, I just want to thank Vice Chair Pierre Leroux, Mayor Leroux, for coming up to save me and help me this morning. This is, I mean, this is a technical difficulty. It's going to happen to all of us. It's going to happen with Archie, myself, and even when we are in closed session, we have some technical difficulty. But this is our new way of doing business, and I'm hoping that we'll be patient with each other. And I apologize again for that this morning. And I did miss the opportunity to thank the board member that we serve from Cumberland, which is Councillor Luloff. Just for the record, I want to thank him for being here to cover for Mr. Councillor Blair. And I was very happy to see Councillor Kit get elected. We have a new elected official for Cumberland, and I'm very happy. She represents her community very well. She's well adversed, and she knows the issue in Cumberland and in Orleans. I'm very happy that she accepted to join our board at SNC, and then hopefully that she'll add a great addition to our board members. So those are my comments, and thank you very much, everyone. And I think now I can have a motion to adjourn. Francois and Archie, and all in favor. Thank you very much, all of you. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, bye now.
Meeting adjourned.